time for Fast Break. This is our bonus episode where we are going to go into whatever you guys have sent in that you would like to talk about during our short segment. Now, before you do anything, like this podcast, subscribe, and share, and then tell somebody to tell somebody else, and hopefully they'll tell somebody else to join and listen to A Win is a Win. Now, today we're going to discuss the never-ending turf issues that have been ongoing in the NFL. Now, I'm pretty sure that everyone knows that Aaron Rodgers had a torn Achilles tendon in Monday night's game against the Bills. And some of his former teammates are sharing strong anti-turf sentiments after that game. Now, the Jets coach, Robert Saleh, said in his news conference on Monday that if Rodgers' injuries were non-contact, he would be more concerned about the turf at MetLife Stadium. And I think that was a trauma-induced injury, but that he knows the players prefer grass. Now, Rodgers was sacked by Bills linebacker Floyd when he suffered his injury. Now, this offseason, MetLife Stadium's turf was changed in a slit film surface to a multi-layered dual polymer monofilament fiber called Field Turf Core. Now, slit film surfaces are created by cutting blades into a single piece of material, resemble netting upon close view, designed to keep the infield in place. Now, players have referred to such turf as it's kind of like grabby, where your monofilament surface can be harder and faster, but it's not designed to release the cleat. Some Jets players reiterated their preference for natural grass Monday night, but some did note that the new field at MetLife felt like an improvement in relation to the previous slit film surfaces. Now, the NFL found a significant statistical difference in non-contact injury rates on slit film surfaces versus natural grass and even other synthetic surfaces from a study between 2018 and 2021. Now, the league hired a company that ran data through IQVIA, which is basically health technology, and they ran their own independent data and gave the results back to the NFL and the NFL Players Association. Now, the NFL also maintained throughout 2022 that it found a statistically insignificant difference between injuries on synthetic versus natural grass surfaces during 2021 season, citing the same data gathered by IQVIA. Now, players and personnel across the league have said that they don't trust the NFL's data or believe it lacks clarity and transparency. Now, asked Tuesday afternoon about the renewed outcry over playing surfaces, NFL Executive President Jay Miller said that the league had not found a difference in the injury rate for Achilles injuries on natural grass surfaces versus synthetic. Now, Miller cited that the data collected on the matter had been collected since 2015, and he was quoted, "It's always difficult when talking about Achilles injuries, which are such substantial injuries, to see two players in the first week go down with those," Miller said, referring to Rodgers and Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins tore his Achilles tendon on Sunday at the M&T Bank Stadium, which has a grass surface. So he tried to make the point by saying, so that it is an important area to continue to research, but because an injury happens on a surface doesn't mean that the injury was caused by that surface. And in this case, we haven't seen a data difference for Achilles injuries. So there's a lot more work to do, and we don't want those injuries in the game. Now, the NFL Players Association jointly appointed the people who collected this data, but the NFL, even some owners, kept citing 1 year, 2021, as evidence injury rates on each surface were similar. The Players Association hears the points to a larger data and released a statement on Twitter that says, excuse me, moving all stadium fields to high quality natural grass surfaces is the easiest decision the NFL can make. Now, pause. We're here now at the point after multiple injuries and after data has been collected on paper since 2018 and off record from 2015 up until 2021. You previously said that the data was accurate, that there weren't significant differences between grass and turf. And now that the players have continued to cry it out, now you are basically saying that it would be the easiest decision based on the data that you've collected. Kind of deflates what you said earlier. It's like an oxymoron. The two statements don't go together. The players overwhelmingly prefer it, and the data is clear that the grass is simply safer than artificial turf. Again, making my point. You're doubling down, and you're going back on your original statement. Now you want to double down on saying that this is the most logical transition is back to grass because the data is clear that grass is simply safer. Okay, well, it's an issue that has been near the top of the players' list during my team visits and one that I have raised with the NFL. While we know that it is an investment to make this change, there is a bigger cost to everyone in our business if we keep losing our best players to unnecessary injuries. It makes no sense that the stadiums can flip over to superior grass surfaces when the World Cup comes or soccer clubs come to visit for exhibition games in the summer, but inferior artificial surfaces are acceptable for our own players. This is worth an investment and it simply needs to change now. Well, in my opinion, it should have changed a lot longer than Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles and players bringing it up yet again for this to be addressed. Mind you, the NFL Players Commission and Jay Miller were the ones who initiated this data research in the first place. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell addressed the turf controversy during an appearance on ESPN's First Take on Wednesday. Now, he was quoted, "We want to go in on this like science. We want to go on what's best for from an injury standpoint." Now, the NFL and the NFL Players Commission meet with manufacturers of artificial turf twice a year to examine injury rates on different turf surfaces, Many players believe that less forgiving turf fields lead to serious injuries, especially non-contact injuries. Players across the NFL have been outspoken in their belief that owners are motivated by money because synthetic surfaces enable them to save on long-term maintenance costs and to do better to host non-football events. And obviously you have Taylor Swift, you have Beyonce, you have many different events that are held on football fields without having to deal with traffic damage on playing surfaces. Now, the NFL has subsequently denied these claims. Now, the outrage from NFL players over playing surfaces has also flared up as major soccer tournaments either are hosted at stadiums or some stadiums prepare to host the World Cup. Now, SoFi Stadium, where the Rams and the Chargers both play, switched to natural grass, I think about last summer. Now, their football surface is a synthetic material called Hellas Matrix Turf. Now, last year, Bank of America Stadium hosted an exhibition match between your MLS soccer club Charlotte and English Premier League team Chelsea and installed a natural grass surface for the match before switching back to an artificial turf for the NFL season. Now, NFL stadiums that wish to host FIFA tournaments such as the World Cup must adhere to the rigorous field testing standards of its own quality program. Any stadium with an artificial surfing hosting a FIFA matchup must meet the program standards or switch to approved grass as at least temporarily during those matches. Now, on a club level, most top European leagues like the English Premier League choose to play on natural surfaces, mostly following players' preferences. Now, I don't agree with the stadiums meeting with FIFA soccer teams, and this isn't any different than them meeting with NFL organization, NFL Players Association, to do what's in the best interest of the players. Now, if you're going to spend multi-millions of dollars to switch over soccer fields to grass, then I believe that your NFL players, where their home fields are worth every bit of that financial investment to return those fields back to grass and significantly decrease non-contact or contact injuries. The data that was ran showed a significant decrease in missed time non-direct contact injuries. Now, non-direct contact injuries decreased when you're looking at the data between a player who's on turf and a player who's on grass. And the data that was collected by independent study was astoundingly accurate, which leads to why the players are consistently saying, if you want us to be safe, if you want us to decrease concussions, if you want us to decrease ACL injuries, you need to turn this turf back to natural grass. There is only one league standardized test required to approve the use of NFL playing surfaces, firmness, and further evaluation, and it is called the Clegg test. Now, the Clegg test is conducted by each team's own field management, led and reported to the league in the days ahead of a scheduled game. Individual teams' personnel must check the infield. Now, Jay Miller has reiterated that the NFL and the Players Association are looking to lower injury rates on both natural grass and synthetic surfaces. Now, using the data collected by IQVIA and a group of biomechanical engineers, the league studies variables such as cleat type, weather, type of movement when the injuries occur, and much more. Now, IQVIA applies an electronic health record to all 32 NFL teams and relies on them to self-test reported injuries. Now, the data also monitors participation, snap-to-snap football exposure, game statistic, player tracking, stadium surfaces, footwear, and such. Now, asked Tuesday whether the NFL has the ability to determine specifically how much a playing surface factors into an Achilles tear, Miller was quoted, "When we take a look at major injuries that lead to substantial time loss and therefore are our priorities from a research perspective, things like Achilles, ACLs, high ankle sprains, a team of biomechanical engineers will study on a frame-by-frame basis those injuries to be understood and to further understand what we can do about limiting those injuries and the contributing factors therefore." I don't think that the understanding of how significant injuries are within turf is, I put it to you like this: turf fields, hands down, are fundamentally dangerous. And if you look at 22 data that was revealed, it shows that turf fields are awful, not only for NFL players, but now you have high schools who are changing over to turf fields. And the mindset is, well, if the NFL is doing it, then we can do it too. And you have older fields that are overused, that are hard as rock, that kids are getting injured on all the time. Now, here's an epidemic of injuries on high school fields happening because the field is a lot harder. Now, there was a test absorption by the field of the weight of someone's head that hits the field. And when you drop a weight on grass, it just kind of stays there. When you drop a weight on turf, it bounces back up. The turf doesn't absorb it. The head does. The helmet does. So now you've got a proliferation of a knee injury because of your points. You put your foot in and your foot gets stuck. And so the stress goes from the foot to the ankle to the knee, and pop goes the ACL. That's what happens to the lower leg. Then you get thrown onto the turf and the force stays within the helmet and you get a concussion. Well, that's a head injury that way. That's why turf is dangerous. And the NFL always says we want to make these safety changes so it will trickle down to other levels of the sport. Well, guess what? In my opinion, You're ignoring a safety issue for money as it relates to grass versus turf. And I don't think that is a hill that anybody wants to die on. Well, let's just say this. The bottom line is we're all prepared to die on some hill, and we know that, but that hill will be covered in grass, not turf. That's going to wrap up our segment for Fast Break. If you have a topic of discussion that you would like to submit, please leave it in the comments or send an email, and we will be sure to showcase that on our next segment of Fast Break. Thank you for listening to A Win is a Win. I am your host, Nadira. That's going to do it for Fast Break. If you have a topic of discussion that you would like to be featured on this bonus show, send me a comment or shoot me an email. Let me know exactly what it is that you would like to discuss, and we will be sure to get that topic on the show. Thank you guys for listening to A Win is a Win, and we'll see you next time.